Welcome. This is A Curious Learning Curve, and I'm your host, Jen Gruey. This is a podcast where we talk about higher education and teaching and everything in between. On this season, we're chatting about online education. How do we engage our students in online environments and help to increase our instructor presence? Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, I'm Jen Gruey, and welcome to another episode. I'm really excited to have Kelli Munns here. She is a professor in the Instructional Technology and Learning Sciences Department at Utah State University. Kelli, I'm so glad you are here. I'm so glad to have you on the episode.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and to talk about these things that are really thrilling to me, honestly, as an instructor.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of working with Kelli on, I know we've worked on at least one committee with a curriculum committee meeting over the last number of years.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to interact with you. I think you always have great ideas. Anyway, every time you open your mouth, I always think she's so smart. And so anyway, has just really great ideas.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump in and talk about one of the ideas that you have that you do with your online classes.
Yeah.
Do you want to start us off? I know it's a great way to both introduce that idea of instructor presence as well as engaging with the students. But do you want to tell us about that, what you're doing?
Yeah, so one of the things, even in some of the research I do, is a lot about feedback, and then what does feedback do? And I do think, particularly in online courses, sometimes that feels maybe like a little distant, you and the student, because especially asynchronous courses where maybe you've never even physically seen one another. So that idea of instructor presence and then trying to have engagement both ways. And so one of the things I'm really intentional about is through Canvas, using SpeedGrader, is doing some of the different options that it has for feedbacks for the students' work, whatever it may be, anywhere from just like a reflection assignment or maybe something that has a rubric, but engaging with the students in different ways. So instead of just written feedback or annotating a paper, is actually using the video option on there and going through the student's submission with your face on camera and voice. And there's a couple good things about this in terms of engagement, them seeing you, but also as an instructor, if you start to feel overwhelmed, you're like, that just seems like a lot of work. Sometimes the first time I've ever even seen the student's submission is on the video as I'm going through it and responding back to the student as my first initial read through of the submission. And then the nice thing is that saves me time. Instead of reading through it and writing, I can read through it and respond to the student. So if you're thinking it's a lot of extra work, you can save yourself some time by doing it
in
real
time. That's awesome. Okay, so walk me through us.
Yeah.
Let's assume that I'm somebody who hasn't worked with SpeedGrader a whole bunch.
Oh, yeah.
So let's say, I click on SpeedGrader, it's in Canvas, it pops up in that new window that it does.
Yeah.
Now, walk me through, how would you do this, this type of feedback?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about doing this video feedback instead of what I would normally do is a lot of comments. And you mentioned you can annotate on the document itself, or there's the different boxes that you can comment. But tell me, where would you go to put this feedback, and what would that process look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Okay, so yeah, you get to your assignment submission page as the instructor in Canvas, and then in the top right corner you'll see the little SpeedGrader link. So you click on that, pulls up the window, and then down in the comment box you'll notice there's a couple other little buttons with images, icons on them, and you'll click on the one, I think it looks like a video or it's a play button, and you can click on that, and then it'll do a pop-up window with a couple different options. Now the unfortunate thing, if Canvas is listening, that they could help us with, is you can either record the screen and your voice, or you can record your face and your voice but no screen. Those are the only two options. So that is important to note, that you can't do face, screen, and voice. You get your voice in a screen or your voice in your face. So, which is fine, right, if you don't want your face on there.
Yeah, and I know some can be a little shy about having their face there, even though I do think it seems like it's nice in terms of students to get that feel for, at least getting that live voice is great. But if people did choose to have their face on there, I think that's great too. But if you have somebody that's really shy,
yes,
that you have that option that you don't necessarily have to have your face on camera.
Yeah, which is another great point. So if you don't want your face on there, you can just go through the document or submission, whatever it may be, and play through it without your face being on there, but you still have your voice. Or if it's something that maybe like it's not a paper and it's something you can read through and you do want your face on there, the only thing is they can't see what you're looking at per se. But yeah, so you'll click into those options, decide which one you want, hit record. It also gives you some options if you're like, I want to re-record that, you can. It's very easy and intuitive in that SpeakGrader kind of platform. But then you'll start recording whatever way you want to go through it, and then give the students a feedback, and then hit, stop recording, and then submit the comment with a grade or whatever you want to do. But yeah, so it's fairly simple in that way. And then just going through however you want to give the feedback, whether it's something, sometimes if it's something a little more informal, like a discussion or a reflection, that's a great time to just do the read through, give them your initial kind of reactions to things they can hear. Because sometimes tone gets lost in text, and so you can give them your real reaction of like, no, this is really great, or like, I didn't think of that. I'm always willing to tell students that. I'll read through something like, I didn't ever give any pause to that, and now I need to reflect on that, which is a great thing. Or if it's something that maybe has a rubric or is a little bit more high stakes, right, you can walk them through that and give that feedback. And again, you can have some words of encouragement, and then if there's some kind of critiques or critical components that you've got to really give them, the tough feedback, at least they can hear in your voice, and they can understand what you're saying in more precise language, and then you can also tell them to reach out to you. But yeah, so anyways, that's kind of what it looks like on the Canvas side, and depending on what I'm doing may depend on how I give that feedback in terms of maybe a read through the first time, or if it's something a little bit more high stakes of thinking maybe I need the rubric in front of me as I go through that too. But yeah.
I do like the casual. I mean, you mentioned that this could save someone time, because that was at first when I was, hearing, we talked about this idea, I kind of thought, oh, this is going to be so much more time consuming. But then you mentioned sometimes you read it, it's almost like a cold reading. Yeah. You open it up right there and you read that. How does that, how do students respond to that? What is that like?
Okay. And I will preface the recording with that. Like, hey, this is the first time I'm reading through this. So you get I'm always really willing to be transparent, and I don't know if like a real human is the right word, but like I am a human too on the other side of this. I'm not the all-knowing Oz. And so it's kind of authentic, I think. I think they can appreciate like, oh, Kelli Munns is a real person on this other side of this online course that sometimes feels disconnected. So I would just say being willing to be, I don't know, vulnerable, but maybe the guards down a little bit, and just telling them that, like, I'm going to read through this the first time, and you're going to hear my reactions in real time to that, especially if that's like within your style of providing feedback. If your reaction maybe is a little bit terse, like, what is this? Maybe that's not your thing. But if not, then I think it's always okay to tell students this is exactly what I'm doing, and this is really how I feel about this as I go through. And my style is always to be more positive if I can be, even if it's a critical critique. So it works really well for me, and if that resonates with you, I think it's a fun thing to do for them. I think they feel a connection in the human aspect of, I'm just a person too.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love the idea of having it land a little softer with our tone of voice.
Yeah.
Being able to add that in there. And if someone chooses to, with their facial expression even.
Oh, yeah.
I know that I've spent lots of time reworking feedback to students because I wanted it, I want them to hear me, and I didn't want to, immediately kind of turn them off to listening to me because they maybe take it in the wrong way and not how I intended, or it comes across a little harsher with just the written word rather than the spoken word. So I really like that as well.
Yeah, and that's the other great thing too, is if it's something you need to annotate or put a written feedback on, you can still click on that video and also submit a second comment with your face on it. Like, I just want you to know this may be critical and you may feel bad about it, but please don't. This is like your moment for growth here, and I'm here to work with you, reach out or whatever. So that's the other thing too. if it's maybe not like totally the thing you want to do and you do need written feedback for whatever reason, you can still pop a video in that submission assignment and just give them like a rundown, a summary of like, please don't panic. It feels like a lot, I get it, but I'm here for you, and this is what feedback's for, so lean into it, I guess is another thing you can do. I've had that before, in the opposite way, where somebody submitted something, and I was like, I just had to give you one video, like, I really am impressed by this, or I want to use this as an exemplar. It was such a good submission. So, like, it's not just feedback in there, like, writing what do they say, like a love letter to this submission, and like overly positive, like, I am serious, this was amazing. And so I've done a video for the opposite reason with written feedback.
That's great. I love that idea. I love it that it ties in also with your research interests. I know, I don't think I've told you this, but I know that you are known as a professor that is really good at having instructor presence in your online classes. So having prefaced it with that comment, how do students respond? Do you ever get comments from students? Do they ever kind of email or on your feedback? How do they respond to it?
They're like, it's too much. Just kidding. No, I do get a lot of comments like, hey, thanks for making an online class feel like you were there, or they'll like validate that. Like, I could tell you were really in this class and it's not just like a grading practice. So you'll get comments about that, or I teach an undergraduate course and a lot of graduate master level courses. So the undergraduates are really, because sometimes they don't always give that feedback. They're just moving through their courses. And so it's nice when you get it from an undergraduate, because they have 6 other classes sometimes to go through. And then at the master's level, they appreciate it because they're usually in our program working professionals. This is something they're doing on the side, and they feel that connection too, especially where we're an online program, where they'll validate, again, the connection that makes by providing that feedback. They appreciate that it's different, because sometimes I do written feedback for sure, but that they do value the fact that it shows that I'm there, like they really see and hear me. So it's been positive. I haven't had it's too much yet, but to be determined.
Yeah, that's good. I do think in the age of AI particularly, but for many years, I do think that there's students that sometimes, I don't know, almost like they think that we're robots, or that things are happening just automatically, or I don't know. They think who's putting this together and who's behind it. And so I think it's probably a great way to sort of address that issue that you're not a robot. You are actually a real human being.
Yeah, exactly. If you can just make a bid to do this once or twice in the semester, that the presence, but then like I'm not just like going through the motions of grading. I really am going through this, or it's not a TA doing it. Like there maybe you have a TA in the class and that's fine, but also like there really is the professor on the other side of this doing the grading too. So that it's not, that it's intentional, that we really are there. We really are reading and grading through things. So maybe helping them, set that in their minds that no, we're really here even when it feels disconnected. Because online can feel that way. It's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is there any other aspect of this that you want to talk about with to our listeners?
Yeah, we'd kind of mentioned this when we had our phone call about the instructor presence and, announcements, emails. Everybody feels a certain way about this. And does it get lost? That happens all the time. Anybody that's been on Canvas, like, did you read the announcement? And you wonder if students are reading the announcements or whatever. But that's another place, like you can always put a video. You can always go through housekeeping things, maybe at the beginning of a module. But I try not to overwhelm them with doing an email and an announcement. Or you could do both, but they're the exact same depending on what a student's preference is. But anytime I think you can get on a video, and post that somewhere, even if it's weekly. I try to do a weekly one, just saying, hey, this is what's going on, or, last week it seems like there was some confusion, or maybe we all bombed something, which means the assignment maybe wasn't great, or the content wasn't great, that you can just pop up the video like you would do in a class, except it's on the video posted somewhere in the announcement or in the module, depending on how somebody's designed their course. And again, just saying, hey, I did see what happened last week, and I am here to address that or compliment it or correct and remediate that. So I think anytime in online courses you can get your face on there is great. And if not, use the Zoom avatar. I've been messing with that a little bit, and I'll change my outfit on it. So when I do a new recording, it's like a new outfit every time. And then it's like a fun bonus point, like what was, Kelli wearing in that last video for an extra point. But anyway, so if you don't, or you can change the avatar to an animal, like when we talked about this, was I a bunny or an elephant? Anyways, so if you don't want your face, you can do the avatars. They're decent enough, so. Yeah.
I love that. So going back to something you mentioned with your announcements, I think, so one thing with online classes is that having something very regular, having something scheduled, having a routine that students can expect is really helpful. And I know you do the weekly announcements, but don't you have a creative name for them? Don't you call them?
Yes. Yeah. So I did come from K-12 and I did middle school, which is wild because if you would ask me when I was going through college, I would have never guessed I did middle school. So middle schoolers are different. And you have to find a way to get their buy-in. And so I can't get the middle school out of me, so I do silly things like this, which again, some of them are probably like, give it up, Kelli. But I call it Munns' Musings because of my last name. And so it'll be like, this is just Munns' Musings for the week and whatever it may be, housekeeping items and stuff. But then they know it's not like particularly instructional content where that video looks different. This is just updates and did something happen or what are we doing? Did we have to adjust things? So yeah, Munns' Musings.
I love it. And I think people should feel the sense of freedom to be a little bit more creative within sometimes titling things like that, like regular announcements or having some kind of creative spin on it is actually really great and can connect with students and lands well with them, it seems like. Yeah,
especially if that's within your teaching style and your personality, like especially when they don't get to be in the classroom with me. And so sometimes they don't know I'm hilarious. Just kidding. It's just a way, to connect with them. And then who I am, my personality, So yeah, I agree. Like it's okay to let the guard down and be who you are and be creative with it. So it doesn't have to be stagnant, I feel like. Because online learning already feels that way sometimes. Just the nature of that beast, I think.
Yeah. But And it's really easy to add those sort of videos to announcements even.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Within Canvas, the same kind of process and same easy kind of integrated system within Canvas announcements as well.
Oh, yeah. You can do the Kaltura option where you can record right then and there, or of course you can do a Zoom. I mean, since we all have Zoom. And the great thing about that is you can Zoom record to the cloud, so you can have the link to give it to them if they need that as well. But yeah, it's so simple. That's just where we are, I think. And there's lots of options, however you want to do it, to get it on there.
That's great. Anything else that you want to add or expand upon? Anything else that you want to share?
I think just the biggest is obviously I'm going to be on the soapbox of feedback because that's like my thing, but it's just as much feedback as you can give students when they submit things, and in different modalities of that feedback is just a positive for online learning. It's one of the best ways I feel like you can have a presence is very intentional feedback, even when it's low stakes, certainly when it's high stakes, and then certainly, like opportunities for that remediation through the feedback is also really wonderful, especially with, Canvas and the way we use it now and how easy it is to do some resubmissions if you want. But feedback, that's a great way to do online instructor presence. If you're looking for a way, is to lean into some feedback and some of the different ways you can do that.
I love it that this is a part of your research too, and those things kind of speak to each other. And that's, it's not something, it's evidence-based that you're drawing upon, and that's what you're utilizing, which is really cool and I think great. So, well, thank you for being on today. I'm going to ask you just kind of a random question. Is there something, I know this is totally off topic, but is there something small, maybe about yourself, something interesting, unique, or even a boring fact about you that you could share with our group, or one or two, or whatever you want to share?
So the interesting fact, I won't give a lot of details. Actually, I'm going to give hardly any details about it. But an interesting fact is I was kicked out of Ireland, like literally kicked out of the country. So I can still go back now. But at one point I was kicked out of it.
And you're not wanted on any international
And I still have a clean
charges.
background check. So yeah, it's a fun fact about Kelli Munns.
You're going to have to, I'm guessing you're going to have a lot of follow-up on this one. People are going to be asking you in the future. They're going to say, Kelli, tell me more. So
I will tell you more in a conversation, but yes.
Great. That's awesome. Well, I learned a lot today. I learned a lot from Kelli about giving feedback and how we can do it in a lot of different formats and modalities, and how students can connect to those different ways of, and how we can give our feedback in a little bit more softer ways, or communicate it in the way that we want to communicate it in these kind of videos. And that it's not unique to feedback. We can also create videos for other types of on assignments or in announcements, and it's a really quick, easy way to increase that instructor engagement and instructor presence and student engagement within one's class. Thanks, Kelli, for being here. Really appreciate you. And thanks to all our listeners. Have a great day.